Hi everyone, I'm Theresa Owca with the Crown Group at CrossCountry Mortgage. Today we're talking to Garrett Silva about how to help real estate agents grow their business through strategy and real solutions.
Thanks, Theresa. Excited to be here.
Let's start by talking about something we talk about a lot internally, the difference between being a lender and actually being a business partner to real estate agents.
Sure, that's a great question, and I think it's more important now than ever that you have those strategic partnerships, right? Instead of they sell the house, I sell the money, we need to really work together. And it's not just like we loosely refer deals to each other, but it's much more of a camaraderie in regards to, sponsoring each other's events, being there for different seminars, co-branding and co-marketing, and helping each other with the expense of that marketing. Social media is bigger than ever, and co-branding different content for social media really helps lift each other up and grow each other's businesses and reputations.
Yeah, that's huge. Being an agent is a huge financial burden. It's also a huge mental load that people don't always think about, and sometimes they're out there alone. And that's one of the reasons that I love the partnership that we have within our own organization and our team, is that we're all here to support each other and help each other grow. We all wear different hats in the organization, and that's why we're able to build and scale such a large team. So I like that we're able to take all that we've learned and pour that into agents that we work with and be that support piece for them as well, and let them know they're not alone, and we do know how to support them through marketing, events, and the financial burden that comes along with putting all of that together. So that's great. Let's talk about something that comes up with almost every agent, and they've probably all experienced this, deals that fall apart, whether that's because of many aspects that can happen during a transaction. What do you think about that, and what are the ways that we help prevent that?
So that's kind of a twofold answer. We do a lot of rescue loans here. So a lot of the reasons why we receive those opportunities is because probably the biggest thing is income. Whether you're a simple W-2 client, but there's overtime or bonus or commissions involved, or you're self-employed and you have some complex tax returns, a lot of people just don't know how to think like an underwriter and what kind of questions they're going to ask. Obviously sometimes things can come up with credit or undisclosed debt. There can be issues with the property, whether it's appraisals coming in low or inspection issues. And one thing that we are really good at is, we're very, very knowledgeable. We've seen so many different transactions. Over the last 14 years, I've overseen over 25,000 closings. So when you get that kind of exposure, you get to, be exposed to a lot of different problems and have to identify different kinds of solutions. Inspection might come in bad. Borrower's got some issues with whatever repairs might be needed. We can talk through different strategies of, instead of just walking away, maybe we look at meeting in the middle. Maybe we look at asking the seller to fix a couple items, even if maybe that means increasing the purchase price so the seller's happy with the net proceeds. When someone wants a house, they want the house. And when issues come up that maybe they're like, man, this $10,000 expense is something I can't handle as a buyer, maybe we look at bumping the purchase price a little bit, having the seller cover it, and then the buyer's still happy, their payment doesn't really move much, and the seller's still able to get the proceeds that they need to start the next chapter of their life.
And that makes a lot of sense. And we do handle a lot of transactions where we take over the loan and have to come to the rescue. Let's talk a little bit about what we do, though, when we get the client initially up front that makes us successful at getting those deals done efficiently and, preventing any of those hiccups from happening to begin with.
One saying that you hear me say all the time is, I measure twice and I cut once, right? So before I issue a pre-approval, I'm getting full documentation, pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns. I'm analyzing them personally, and if I can't, I'll have an actual underwriter look at those documents. Obviously verifying assets, understanding that if we're right on the border, like maybe we need $10,000 to close and the client has like $10,500, looking at different strategies like grants we might offer, down payment assistance that we might offer to help, not have that be an issue down the line. The biggest thing too is, again, just having a full constructed file, running your findings properly, setting up a couple different scenarios. Hey, here's your life at 5% down, 10% down, 15. If you're not comfortable with your payment, maybe we can look at doing like a small rate buy down, or maybe even asking for a 2-1 buy down, right? To help you kind of get your foot in the door, get comfortable. As you make more money in life, you can accept and absorb those higher payments. So, I say I probably do 80% of my work on a file before they ever even get a pre-approval. It's very, very important that you over communicate with the client and with the agents about, different implications with their down payment and monthly payment at certain price points, even in certain neighborhoods, right? If I'm living in Strongsville, Ohio, my taxes will probably be a little higher than Brunswick, Ohio. Those are all very important factors that you need to consider. If I'm trying to have my payment be XYZ because my kids want to go to this private school, well, maybe you look at a nicer neighborhood where the public schools are more up to speed with what you want. And then instead of paying thousands of dollars in private school tuition, you pay a little bit more in your mortgage, right? So just, over communication and having really good in-depth conversations with everyone involved can really help you have preventative maintenance down the line.
100%. And one of the things that comes to mind for me is, you're talking about communication, but making sure not only does the customer understand the strategy going into this when they're shopping, but also that real estate agent. So everyone's working together to get to the final part of that transaction seamlessly with a plan in place. And then if something does happen where we do receive some sort of hiccup or news, we know exactly how to pivot and transition through that transaction.
Something else that's important that I think doesn't happen enough is talking with the listing agent about what the seller needs and wants, right? Sometimes the seller has already moved and they're carrying this other house that's a burden. They want to close as fast as possible. Sometimes the seller is in a transition period of their life and they might need a longer close, or they might need to look at, hey, let's close in 30 days, but I need to rent the house back from you for another 30 days. So having good conversations with the listing agent can also make sure that things go smoothly and that all parties are happy, at the end of the day.
The most successful agents treat their business like a business. So we don't want to be reacting to everything that happens in the market or our business. We want to be proactively working on our business. And I think that's something that we've had to do more and more and more of, planning 6 months out, a year out. It's probably hard for the average agent to really think in that grand of a scale. And I think that's why the Agent Advantage live conversation that we've developed has been getting people into a think tank outside of their normal environment and bouncing ideas off of somebody else who can strategically help them. What are some more in-depth things that we can do with them? Direct marketing, farming, open house strategies, social media. What we briefly talked about, broad scale, but what are some real life examples of things that we've done that have been helpful in moving the needle in someone's business and delivering basically on what we say we're going to do?
Well, first things first, failing to plan is planning to fail, right? And what gets measured gets improved. And depending on, again, where someone's at in their own personal growth, there's various examples of things we've done. We recently partnered with a couple local agents here, very young in life, very young in their careers, but they're big hustlers. They invest a lot in their own marketing, they buy leads. And when we were chit-chatting with them about like how they manage the leads, they're like, well, I get a text and I call them and I send it to my friend, or maybe it's an email. And I'm like, all right, so where does all this information live, right? And they're like, well, it doesn't really live anywhere, and that's a problem. So, we talked about getting them into a CRM, but first and foremost, we literally just said, we're going to take every lead you have, put it in a spreadsheet, and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? This person's not interested, that person's already bought, and just having all that information in one place that you can analyze, you can really help you make more educated decisions on what you should do next in your growth path, right? Should I buy more leads? Or heck, sometimes you should buy less leads, right? Sometimes less is more if you're not being efficient enough with them. So that's a small example of how we can really, help that small group take their business, get it more organized, and be more efficient with it. We talk a lot about the single agents on how they can get exposure. Open house strategies. Hey, if you don't have business, you should go out trying to get business, right? One big thing that I'm on is like, I don't get business, I earn business, right? So I'm helping them set up flyers for their open houses. I'm helping them take all the clients that stop by the open house and I'm calling them, right? We have a large team. We also have our corporate call center. They make over 100,000 dials a day. So helping the agents just get that list penetration so they can get all those contacts addressed is a huge lift that we can, take those clients, figure out which ones are actually ready to buy, pass those back off to the agent, and that way they're not kind of stuck in the weeds fumbling through a bunch of different leads. We're kind of helping that cream come to the top so they can just be more efficient with their time.
Yeah, 100%. And I really noticed, even working in open houses myself with agents, that not all agents go in there with the same strategy to collect that data and know how valuable that data is. And what you do with that piece of paper you put out at your open house afterwards is very important, and they don't realize how important it is sometimes. So I think one of the things that we do is kind of bridge that gap and show them, like, you need to put this into a CRM system, and you do need to call these people. And I think that sometimes is a big disconnect, especially in today's market with agents and even loan officers alike. If you're working off referral clients, is talking to those people. People think that, they're going to put out some posts on social media, and yes, it does work. But you also have to engage with real people and have real conversations. So open houses is a great way to meet people. Having a lender there is also a great way to have a team backed behind you, and then taking all of those contacts once you leave and getting them into a CRM system, or using a tool like we have, Total Expert, and using that as a digital sign-in sheet, then captures that data for you right then and there. And if you're working with the right lender, they will help you continue to make contact and touch those clients, and continue to work on, obtaining and acquiring them as your client yourself. So I think that's huge.
One thing we talk about a lot too is having intention, right? Doing everything with intent. And some people might get a list of folks and call them once and not call them again, or maybe not call them at all. And it's like, well, I don't want to bother them. You're not bothering them. You're going to change their life and help them in the greatest way you possibly can. And once in a while, you kind of have to help people get out of their own way,
Yeah.
It's a contact sport. The more people you contact, the better you're going to do. And you're not going to contact anyone if you don't pick up the phone and give them a call.
100%. And I think you'll see the most successful agents out there, the most successful loan officers, are not sitting on the sidelines. They're not waiting to be ready. They're just out there getting the experience. They're out there pushing themselves, and they're making phone calls. They're contacting other people.
I think a lot of people are just afraid of rejection, and they don't want to be told no. They don't want to get an objection. And I love no's. Every no, I'm that much closer to a yes. I love objections. An objection is just a client saying, Garrett, I have a concern. And then I can talk through what that concern is with them and help them resolve that concern. So when someone says, hey, that rate seems high, or hey, this price seems like it, or this house seems like it's overpriced, that's basically them saying, hey, this is a concern I have. And then we can talk through why that's a concern for them and what the resolution is. Biggest thing I can tell people is don't be afraid of rejection. Rejection's a good thing. And every no is closer to a yes. It's almost like gambling. Like, hey, you can't lose forever, right? That's why I'm a degenerate gambler. Every time I get a no, I'm like, all right, well, I can't get no's forever. Someone's going to like me. So just keep at it.
Yeah, 100%. And you're there collecting even more data, more information to utilize and use to your advantage.
Yeah, I'm big on reflect and correct. We do a lot of call reviews. I do them multiple times a week, where pull some loan officers into a room, we listen to their calls. It's probably kind of awkward for everybody, but you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And when you listen to yourself in like the third person, it's a lot different than when you're live on the phone, because you can't stop and analyze, right?
Right.
On a phone call, there's three different voices. There's the client's voice, there's my voice, and then there's the voice inside my head telling me like what I'm going to ask next, or where I need to click and what I need to do. And being able to look at that from a third person perspective can really help you say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. I'm never going to say that again. Oh, did you hear my tonality there? I sounded annoyed. I need to be more upbeat. And doing that will really help improve your game.
So that leads me into also talking a little bit further about agent support. Not only are we great communicators, but we've developed strategies and ideas behind our brand and our team that help a real estate agent really look at their business full circle. That's why we created Agent Advantage Live. And during this strategy session, we basically walk agents through every step of how our business intersects with theirs and what we can do to support them. What's one of the reasons, obviously, that this was so important to us to bring this on as part of our business model and something that we offer our agent and referral partners?
So, to kind of circle back, communication. People don't know how you can help them if you aren't able to tell them, right? So our Agent Advantage Live talks about everything between all the great products and programs that we offer here at CrossCountry. It talks a lot about our business model. We're a very high data-driven call center type environment where we're doing business nationally, working through a lot of different kind of lead resources and avenues, and helping our agents take advantage of that, right? We talk a lot about our pre-approval process, which we just touched on. Something that I think people don't understand enough about is just the intricacies of the contract to close process, right? When I get a contract from an agent, I'm calling the listing agent again. I've already spoken with them ideally. I'm calling the buyer's agent, calling the buyer, getting disclosures out. Our processing and operations team is, I think, second to none. They're getting periodical updates a couple times a week with what's going on, certain milestones that have been hit, like appraisals back, files out of underwriting, CDs are sent, and having them be able to understand what that process looks like, in addition to all the different things we offer when it comes to co-marketing, co-branding, CRM systems that are available to them free of charge to help build their business, stay top of mind with their clients. It just really helps, again, increase their business, increase their revenue, and increase their market share.
It's pretty full circle. It has everything jam-packed into one initial meeting, and then we schedule strategy sessions and we dive deeper with the agent, really getting to know their business and where their pain points and struggles are in creating more business and essentially more wealth for themselves and their family that they're trying to support. And that's really what it comes down to. And I think that we really understand what it takes to create something out of nothing. Let's face it, agents are out there every day not getting a paycheck unless they close a deal. And by all means, that is not easy by any means for anybody to do. One of the ways that we definitely give them the support they need is by showing them, from the ground up, how to use their tools that they have at their hands more efficiently and more effectively. We also offer sales support. This is something that I'm sure brokerages will help with here and there, but no one knows how to sell something better than a consumer direct driven mortgage company. I'll tell you that right now. We've, basically grown up in the trenches of consumer direct, dialing out on the phones, talking directly to the consumer nationwide without even seeing our face. So we definitely know how to take those skill sets and transition them into interpersonal, real life human conversations that we have every day here in our local market with agents and customers. So that's definitely something I think, Garrett, you specialize in, working with agents and showing them the skills that we teach our own loan officers every day. Why don't you talk a little bit more about your sales background and, what we instill in our team so that they're confident when they're out there talking to, the consumer?
Sure. So, just like you mentioned, I got into this business as a telemarketer. So, I started out in a call center making $7 an hour, right? And kind of worked my way up from there. Became a loan officer, then became a trainer, and then became a manager. And I've been running my own cost center since 2018 with my business partner, Frank. Something that I think is really unique about us is because of all of our experience and our scale, we can offer something for really kind of any agent depending on where they're at in their career path, right? Are you a brand new person that just needs to get your personal brand out there, let people know who you are? We can help you with that. Are you more advanced agent where, you've got a good amount of transactions under your belt, you've got some steam rolling, you just need to help grow and expand your business? We can absolutely help with that. Are you a mega agent who has a big team and spends a lot of money in marketing and works a lot of leads? Absolutely. We actually just partnered with a big agent in Oklahoma, biggest agent in Oklahoma. They literally literally have agents throughout the entire state. And they do a lot of Zillow marketing. So we helped with that spend. We help with those lead conversions. When a lead hits Zillow, it goes to the agent, it goes to us, and we're calling it fast enough to scare them, right? So depending on where you're at in your career path, we really can help you get to the next level. I'm a huge believer that if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And I don't care which one you pick, success or failure, I won't let you stay in the middle.
Amen to that.